Okay, so tonight I'm going to introduce you to my inner child. Now, I spent most of my life without him because I had him and I put him down somewhere and I forgot where I left him. It's kind of like losing my keys. You know, when I don't have my keys, I can't start my car, I can't get in my house, I can't get in my business. You know, with my inner child, without my inner child, I have no direction. Right? I have no inspiration, have no hope, and I can't find my happiness. So what happens when I lose my keys? I think back in my mind. I go back, okay, so where was the last time I had my keys? And then I find that place, and then I follow my footsteps back until I find my keys. So that's what I thought I would do with my inner child. So I thought, where was the last place I had my inner child completely? And I thought, okay, I got it. I was born. Now, I didn't get to choose what family I went into, so I changed a bit and I fit in. And then I didn't get to choose what school I went to, so I changed a bit and I fit in. And then when I was about 12, my dad started to do some pretty horrible things to me. And that's when I put him away. I put him away, I locked him up, and I threw away the key. And I developed this thick outer shell. And then I lived most of my life as that thick outer shell, protecting myself and protecting him. But I lived so long in that outer shell that I forgot all about my inner child. I forgot that I even had one, never mind what he was like. So years and years went by. And one day I was driving to work. And I started talking to myself. I don't know why, but I asked myself a question. I said, are you happy with who you become? And I thought, no, I'm not. So then I asked myself, what are you going to do about it? I thought, I don't know. But the radio was on. And it was this guy was talking about finding your happiness. And he said, if you want to find your happiness, you have to reconnect with your inner child. And I thought, inner child? I don't have an inner child. And then he says, most people think they don't have an inner child. But he says, everybody does. And it's just a matter of finding him. You want to find your happiness, find your inner child. And I thought, okay, that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it my mission to find my inner child. 20 years goes by. I still haven't found him. And I thought, and it's got to be somewhere. Like, I took all these different business courses, I read all the books, and I never found my inner child. I got moments of inspiration, but they never lasted, right? So somewhere, it's out there somewhere. Finally, I took this one course. And in this course, what they were doing, they would talk about situations in our lives. And then they would have one of the people from the class come up and share about their experience inside that situation. So I went up there once, and I was sharing about my story, like what happened in that situation for me. And I was talking, and I was powerful. I was really strong in front of the crowd. And then all of a sudden, this ball of emotion shows up, and I was going to cry. And I thought, I can't cry, not here. So I turned around, and I gathered together all my strength, everything inside me, and I pushed that emotion down, and I destroyed it. And when it's all gone, I came back, and I was strong again. And then when I was done sharing, I went back and I sat down. And the lady that runs the center comes over, and she taps me on the shoulder. She says, Richard. I said, yeah. She goes, out in the hallway now. So we go out there. I went, what did I do? So she says to me, what did you do? And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, what did you do up there? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. She says, why did you turn around? I said, because I was going to cry. I don't want people to see me cry. They'll think I'm weak. She says, no, that's you. I go, what? She goes, that's you trying to get out. I said, what? She goes, when you're up there on that stage, she goes, if you want to scream, you scream. If you want to laugh, you laugh. And if you want to cry, then you cry. She goes, if you do that, if you let you out, miracles are going to happen. And I thought, yeah, okay. So I go back into the classroom and I sit down, and I'm thinking, and I go, wow, so that's where I hit him. Then I thought, you know what? He didn't go anywhere. He was there all along. I talk to him every day. And when I sleep at night, he talks to me in my dreams. He wasn't gone anywhere. I just wasn't listening to him. I got to tell you something about this little guy. He has great ideas. He has ideas that can change the world. And I spent all of my life destroying those ideas. So I decided in that moment that I was going to give the little guy a chance. I was going to let him out sometimes and see what he could do. So the next time I went up on stage, that emotion showed up. And I cried. And miracles happened. And then about 2 weeks went by, and my wife took the course. And since I got her to show up, since I got her to enroll in the class, I got to come in and spend 3 hours in the class with her. And I'm in the class with her, and the teacher goes, Richard, do you want to come up and say something to your wife? And I was, sure, okay. So I go up there, and I'm gonna say something to my wife. I got this great thing all planned. And I get up there, and as soon as I go to speak, that ball of emotion shows up. And this time it was different. It was 100 times more powerful than before. But I didn't cry. I bawled my eyes out. I want to tell you something about my wife. At that point in time, we had been married for 27 years. And we went out for 3 years before that. And in that 30 years I knew her, she never, ever seen me cry. Not once. Not when my dad died, not when my mom died, not when we had kids. Never, ever seen me cry. And here I am standing here in front of 300 people and her bawling my eyes out. And she's just like in shock. So I'm looking over at her as I'm bawling, and I'm going, uh-oh, I did something wrong. And my little guy, he's talking to me, he's going, everything's perfect. And I go, you're crazy, buddy. Look at her. She's in shock. He goes, everything's perfect. And then finally the emotion goes down. I stop crying. I get my strength back. And I go to talk again. And again it goes. And I'm bawling again. And I start having this conversation with my little guy. I go, buddy, you're screwing me up here. I go, come on. I love you and I trust you and everything. But this is ridiculous. Like, I got to say something. I'm in front of all these people and my wife. And, my wife, she's in shock. And he goes, don't worry, everything's perfect. So I said, okay, fine. I said, come on, you got to let me say something. He goes, sometimes words aren't needed. And I said, you got to give me something. Listen, I talk myself out of everything in my life. I can talk myself out of this. He goes, I'm going to give you 3 words. And you can say those 3 words, and that's it. And I said, really? He says, yeah. So he turned off the tears. I got my strength back. I looked at my wife, and I said, I love you. Then the tears started again. But my wife was still standing there. And the little guy says to me, see, it's perfect. I go, you're crazy, buddy. Now I got to walk from the front of the room to the back of the room through 300 people, and everybody's wondering what's going to happen. What's going to happen when I get back there to my wife? She's standing there in shock. So I get back there. As I'm walking back, my little guy says to me, he says, give her a big hug. I said, you sure? He says, just give her a big hug. So I get back there, and I give her the biggest hug I've ever given her. And she's not hugging back. And I thought, I'm doomed now. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to lock him up again. I'll get myself out of this. I'll talk to her. I'll get myself out of it. So I let go of her. I back up a little bit, and I look into her eyes, Before I can say anything, she looks at me and she says, "Now that's the guy that I want to be married to." And that's the guy I hid away from her, all of our relationship. And that's the guy I hid away from the world my whole life. The little guy was right. I was wrong. And with that, I want to introduce you to my inner child. His name is Little Ricky Zink. And he has a heart that's bigger than the earth. And what he likes the most is when I stand up in front of a crowd and I let him come out to play. Because what happens is the people get to see how great he really is and how big his heart is. But what he sees, that's something special. When he's up there, something happens. It's like everyone in the crowd lets their inner child out to play too. And even if it's just for a moment, just a second in time, it's beautiful. It's pure love, nothing else. And that's the miracle. And what he likes the most is that he is me and I am him. And he wants me, in closing, he wants me to give you a message. He just wants to say thank you. Thank you to all of you for letting your child come out and play with him today. Thanks.
But now it looks like things are finally